Hey guys, today I just want to talk about the principal teaching of the Buddha, which is simply Dukkha, Dukkha, Nirodha. And what does that mean? Dukkha is disturbance, and Dukkha, Nirodha is the absence of disturbance. So, the important thing to understand here is that nothing externally changes when the third noble truth of Dukkha, Nirodha is realized. The only difference between Dukkha and Dukkha Nirodha is a perceptual change. What ceases in the third noble truth explicitly is stated as the cessation of craving and clinging, which is an internal phenomena. So nothing changes externally in the circumstances of the world. The only change happens in your perception. So the way I want to illustrate this today is that you could have two people who are raising a child, and let's say one parent looks at that child and sees nothing but problems and flaws and things that need to be fixed, and the other parent sees that child and sees absolutely no problems in that child. They are perfect exactly as they are. So in one parent's mind, there is craving and clinging. There is a desire for that child to be different. There is the desire for things to change. There's perceived problems to be fixed. There's measurement and comparison. There's judgment, essentially. And there's a lot of suffering in that parent's mind because of all of that measurement and comparison and judgment and fault finding. And that's all dukkha. And that's caused by the craving and clinging in relation to the perception of that child, who is seen as flawed in the one parent's mind. Now you compare that to, and also the child will suffer from having a parent like that, who's judgmental and critical and constantly measuring and comparing and wishing for that child to be different because they have some idea in their mind of how that child should be. So the parent suffers and the child suffers. Now contrast that with the other parent's mind, who looks at that child and sees no problems at all. The child is exactly the same, but in that other parent's experience, there is the absence of craving and clinging. There's the absence of the suffering that comes from it. There's the absence of judgment, of measurement, of comparison. In the second parent's mind, their mind is abiding in the third noble truth. They're seeing the child as just fine, exactly as that child is. Nothing needs to be changed, nothing's wrong, nothing's missing. And that is Dukkha Nirodha. That's the absence of dukkha. It's the absence of craving and clinging. And there's no difference in the child. The child is external, right? There's only a difference in perception between one parent and the other. And so as a result of the other parent not seeing any problems in that child, whereas one parent sees nothing but problems, there's no suffering in the parent's mind who sees no problems, and there's no suffering in their relationship to the child because they don't see any problems. There's just joy and love and acceptance. And this example perfectly illustrates the proper understanding of that core principle that the Buddha taught, which is merely the first and third noble truth. Dukkha being the first noble truth, Dukkha Nirodha being the third noble truth. Dukkha is the presence of disturbance, or what we call suffering, and Dukkha Nirodha is the absence of that disturbance. And the only difference is in our perception. There is a mind that sees nothing but faults and problems in the world, and then there is a mind that sees no problems in the world, that accepts the world exactly as it is. So now I'm replacing the child with the world in a sense. So there's nothing that we need to do. There's nothing that we need to fix. There's nothing that's missing. There's nothing actually wrong. There's no problems. There's nothing externally that we need to renounce. The only thing that actually needs to be renounced, if you look in the suttas and you look at right renunciation, is the renunciation of the second noble truth, the craving and the clinging. Our duty to the second noble truth is to abandon it, is to renounce it. We have to throw away that craving and clinging, which is exactly that measurement, that comparison, that judgment. It's illustrated well in Buddhadasa's interpretation of the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve are running around in paradise. They're running around with no self-consciousness. They're running around with no names for things, right? They're just living in paradise. They're living in reality as it is. And then they eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they immediately start naming things. They immediately become aware that they're naked. They develop shame, they develop judgment, they develop comparison, and they're thrown out of paradise for that reason. And then, as you know, everything that follows in the Bible is pretty terrible. So all of that bad stuff, starting with Cain and Abel, that follows Genesis, is really the result of eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's the full name. And it's important to understand the full name, because fruit means result. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil essentially means judgment. So what we do is we experience the results of our judgments. We experience the results of measurement and comparison and judgment. Our minds create a sense of separation between self and other, between internal and external, between good and bad, beautiful and ugly, right and wrong, everything. All of those dualities are perceptual fallacies and conceptual fallacies that we've had filling our minds our entire lives. But what is and that's all the First Noble Truth, right? That's all Dukkha. But what is the reality? The reality is the Third Noble Truth. It is a mind that is absent of judgment, empty of judgment. It doesn't have the judgment that creates self and other. It doesn't have the judgment that creates good and bad. It doesn't have the judgment that creates beautiful and ugly. There's actually no problems in the world. There's no problems in nature. All problems are human inventions. They're perceptual inventions. They're all created from judgment. They're all created from dissatisfaction. They're all created from thinking things should be other than they are. And the only step that you need to make to realize the Third Noble Truth is to understand fully and completely, with complete faith and confidence, and to accept that there's actually nothing wrong, nothing needs to be changed, nothing is missing, everything is okay exactly as it is. And abide in that mind that is free of dukkha, free of judgment, free of craving and clinging, because that's what needs to be renounced.